Let's talk about how to work with green screen footage in Adobe Premiere. First things first, head over to the Google Classroom and download these 3 clips in number 6 color grading, color correction, and green screen called One Forest, Raw VR Girl, and VR Girl. We'll need all 3 for this lesson. Now in Premiere, we're going to need to go ahead and layer a couple of our clips. Go ahead and start by dragging in this number 1 forest over to your timeline. And then grab the one just called VR Girl and layer it over the top of the forest clip. Our end goal is going to be to have the forest showing up behind this woman in this frame. Now if we look at the color of green behind her, we can see that it's very flat. There was some sort of a backlighting on it, so because of that there's no shadow. It's all one solid color the whole way across, and it's a very distinctive color from the rest of the frame. She's all in blue and black, everything behind her is this very bright green, which doesn't exist anywhere on her. This is going to be a very easy image to key out for all of the reasons I just listed. Now the way we do that is we need to head over to our Effects tab up at the top, and over on the side, we're going to go into Video Effects, Keying, and we're going to use this one here called Ultra Key. Go ahead and drop this onto your VR Girl clip. Now over in our effects controls, we now see that we have Ultra Keying, and currently our output is set as composite and our setting is default, and it's asking us what our key color is. Right now it's defaulting to black. Go ahead and select the eyedropper tool next to the key color and click on the green in your preview window. Automatically, it's gotten rid of all of the green in the background. If I play it through, it should be pretty clean the whole way through. Now to make sure that this is keying out everything in this screen, we have this option here called Output, and right now it's set to Composite. Go ahead and click on Composite and change it to Alpha Channel. What this Alpha Channel is telling us is what exactly is being keyed out. Everything in white is still in our image, and everything in black has now been keyed out. We can see that it's pure black behind her, so there's no issue of any remaining green in the background. And right now she looks pretty purely white. There's a couple of little spots of black, but for the most part that's only where there's separation on the controllers that she's holding. And so we know that this keying has worked pretty well. We'll go back to Composite. As I mentioned earlier, this was an extremely easy color to key out, strictly because of how well it was done. It was lit neatly, there were no wrinkles, and so because of that we knew that we were going to have a simple time getting rid of it. Go ahead and delete this VR Girl clip, and now bring in this one called Raw VR Girl. Now in this clip, we see that we still have a pretty good green screen behind her. This is going to be a bit more realistic to screens you might work with in the future. There is a slight gradient on the screen behind her. We can see it's darker down in the lower right hand corner than it is towards the center and upper left. It's not quite as distinctive as it was from her shirt and everything else, and there's even a little bit of shine of it on her hair. Let's go ahead and bring that Ultra Key onto this Raw VR Girl clip, and let's go ahead and select the green as our key color again. Now already I can see that some of the screen has still been left in. You can especially tell down in this lower right hand corner. There's a bit of a fogginess there. To make sure I'm right about this, I'll change my output over to alpha again. You can see that all along the bottom there's what appears to be a bit of a mist. This is telling me that these sections have not been fully keyed out, strictly because they were just a slightly different color than the one that I selected. Now right now if we look just below our output, we can see we have something called Setting, and right now it's set to default. If you click on it, you'll see that you have 3 additional options: Relaxed, Aggressive, and Custom. I'm going to go ahead and set mine to Aggressive. You can see that it succeeded getting rid of that extra green that had been down in the lower section of our window. That's because since I've switched it over to Aggressive, it's now selecting a wider range of green. I'll switch back to my composite view. Overall, this looks pretty good, but I do see I have some small issues happening up towards the top of her head. If we look at this VR set, we can see that it's being clipped off a little bit depending on how she turns. If this were just a brief clip, I don't think anybody would be too bothered by that, but if we wanted to, we could further customize this keying. I'm going to go ahead and switch my setting back to default and open up these 2 options here called Matte Generation and Matte Cleanup. Look at these numbers as I switch between my default to my aggressive. You may notice that they're now changing a little bit. If we wanted to, we could actually customize how our keying is working using these numbers down here. With matte generation, I could raise my transparency or lower it, which is helping us determine how transparent we actually want our keying to be. Initially it was around 50 to 55, which is about as high as we want it to be. As soon as we start going higher than that, our actor starts becoming transparent as well. With highlight, this asks us how much we want our actual highlight to show up. With this, I'll probably keep it a bit lower. Shadow is the same idea. Down in our lower corners here, we had a darker green, if you remember prior to us turning on this key. If I turn up the shadow, the green appears more. If I lower it, it should drop as well. Unfortunately, since our actress has black hair, you may notice that the lower I go, the more her hair is now starting to disappear. So we would just need to be careful with this to make sure that we had our shadow as low as we could without getting rid of her hair. For us, that looks like it's going to be around 60. Our tolerance has to do with the actual strength of the keying that we've set up. The higher it is, the less tolerant it'll be of the green. The lower, the more so. I'm going to go ahead and leave this pretty far up. And lastly in this section we have the pedestal, which works similarly to tolerance. The lower it is, the more that green is going to show up, the higher, the less so. Let's play it through to make sure that nothing's disappearing on her. So far it looks pretty good overall. Again, this was another green screen that was fairly easy to correct simply because there were no folds or anything within the screen itself. But let's take a look at matte cleanup as well to see what further options we have if we were working with a more challenging green screen. Let's start with this option called choke. Now sometimes what you'll see is that sometimes the green will be reflecting onto our actor a little bit if they're standing too close to their green screen. It's not happening too much on her, but let's go ahead and raise up this one called choke and watch what's happening around her arms in particular. You'll notice that her arms start to thin out the higher I raise the choke. This is one way that you could go about getting rid of some of that green around the edges of our actor. I'll go ahead and raise ours to 10 so it's not doing much, but it's just getting rid of any little bit that might be there. Soften determines how soft we want the edges of our actress to appear. If I raise it up higher, you can see that it starts to blur out around her. This is another way that we could soften out the green around her if there were any. Overall, if we now watch through this clip, we can see that we've now successfully removed the green from this clip. Feel free to find your own green screen footage and play with some of these settings further to get used to the process of keying out a green screen.